Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
Today we're going to talk about Ireland's over-reliance on importing vegetables and fruit into the country.
Yes.
So the market is worth about 400 million thereabouts. 70% of organic horticulture produce sold in Ireland is actually imported. The organic growers of Ireland have set up an apprenticeship programme, and they have about 18 to 25 apprentices on an ongoing basis. The problems faced with all these imports is that we're going to look at them one by one. The amount of excess produce produced in the UK and where that goes. Lower labour costs in Britain. The strength of the euro. There's a stronger euro. So we're going to look at a few of those things. We're going to look at transportation as well. Okay, so there we go.
Yes. Now, the first thing you said there was about the organic vegetable market. That's a growing market and could account percentage-wise for about 10, maybe to 15% of the sales of fruit and veg in supermarkets. It's not what would I call it? It's not the major sector. It's a specialised sector, and this is why the Irish Organic Society, with the help of the department, are trying to develop that sector because it gives them scope for supplying on an ordinary basis the market in this country and perhaps abroad, because this is an agricultural country and could be in a position to supply the needs for organic vegetables, not just in this country but perhaps in the UK, irrespective of whether they're in the EU or out of it, and also for further afield. It's a unique market, that market. So that should be encouraged because the market for the majority of fruit and vegetables, which was supplied heretofore in this country to shops and people in the retail trade, and hence to the people in their homes, were produced in this country without any problem that has occurred since we've got this monopoly situation by way of the grocery trade in this country.
Okay, so there's a population in the UK of about 60 million people. They always have to produce an excess of vegetables and fruit because of the weather. So there's always an excess there, okay? And that excess of produce, if they send just 10% of that over to Ireland, okay, they're getting it for half price. 10% can easily feed our population of people, okay? You also got the transportation. So if somebody goes over to the UK to deliver meat, they're coming back with an empty fridge. The excess goes into that transportation. So they got half the transport costs. They're cheap, and they got all the costs are down. So that therefore the Irish farmer, the Irish producer, can't compete against these vegetables coming in that they're getting for half price.
Well, you see, this is the danger about a monopoly situation. I've spoken about this monopoly situation for years, and it appears to me, and on the radio years ago when I was in the food trade, I saw the way the supermarkets, the monopoly situation, as it began to expand, they were the most inefficient outlets to deliver goods to that was ever invented. Some of them then got central depots so that their own transport would supply their individual supermarkets. And when they did that, they expected more discount from suppliers. They were ruthless, without any loyalty whatsoever to this country, in my experience. So much so that even if you produce goods at a good price, lower than some, you might have difficulty in supplying them. Because of the neglect of successive governments which allowed a monopoly situation to obtain against Article 45 of the Constitution, which prevents monopolies in the distributive trade. It was introduced in 1937 when President Eamon de Valera, or Prime Minister Taoiseach as he was at the time, put that in and put it, unfortunately, in the Dáil at the time, as they were being voted on for the people to be elected. It was perceived that it would make sure there was no such thing as a monopoly in the grocery trade. They have failed to implement that Article 45 as was envisaged in the Constitution, because people, the electorate, have not been awake enough or cute enough or knowledgeable enough about the reality of what they've been saddled with. Hence, the food trade has suffered. Many food companies have closed that provided great service to the retail trade in the 50s and 60s before we joined the EU and before the advent of these monopolies. There was many farmers growing vegetables which supplied their own needs and also supplied the needs of the retail stores as existed. There was plenty of competition with different retail stores. The false lie that's often told, the falsehood that's told about the fact that the supermarkets are where you get low prices and all this. Low prices from the supermarkets is at the cost of suppliers. In this country, the lack of production of fruit and vegetables is a direct result of the monopoly situation. Any government that would know anything about the distributive trade should have limited any supermarket group to about 5% of the overall market. Then you would have a fruit and vegetable trade, second to none. And this country would have a great reputation as regards food and food production. But because of their neglect in this important area, they've managed to sort of destroy that potential.
But how would you deal with the imports? It's the excess and the cheap transportation that causes the problem.
If you have a monopoly situation, you cannot deal with it. There's no way you can deal with it. The only way it could have been dealt with would be, as what I'm rather saying, which I think happens. It happened in Germany years ago, that no group could, no food group, no supermarket group could control more than 7% of the grocery trade. I don't know whether that's been changed now since we have this EU. But there was a time when that was the situation. In this small country, with being at the mercy of countries with larger populations, we would have need to be very careful about what way we developed our agricultural economy. You mentioned that meat exported, which we have a good reputation for, and which I think was protected. And don't forget the horse trade, the horse industry was protected, hence we have a great reputation as regards quality horses in the racing world and all the rest of it, and get great prices. So they were protected, but regretfully the farmers were thrown to the wolves. Hence no production of fruit and veg, and the only way to go is this organic way, which is better than nothing but requires expertise, and we'll find that the monopoly situation will use their might to thwart that.
There's been very few studies actually done. I mean, I was looking at figures trying to get some results. The last up-to-date sectoral profile available on field vegetables was dated 2001. And then I was looking for figures, and it dates back to 2011. I was able to get some figures. So what that tells me basically is that the government is totally neglecting agriculture in Ireland.
They are, and they pay lip service. They've had ministers for agriculture, and really they nearly want to be charged with negligence. They have been negligent to the farmers, and the reason they've been negligent is no point in throwing subsidies at farmers. Let farmers grow vegetables, fruit and vegetables, which we did. Farmers were able to produce apples, pears, plums. We had plum jam, lovely jam, strawberries, raspberries, blackcurrants, even small people with gardens maybe of a half an acre grew vegetables as well. So they supplied their own needs and supplied the needs of the population to which was about. Regretfully, the people that were elected by the citizens to run the Dáil neglected this very important matter. No harm in having supermarkets in the country, providing that they don't control more than 5% of the market. If they control a monopoly situation, as the German discount stores now are trying to do, moving into towns that heretofore had great family businesses, even Belmullet in County Mayo, which had escaped the scourge of this monopoly situation, now are going to be saddled with an Aldi supermarket. So this is hence the destruction of the towns and villages. They're like vanishing places. And this useless government is talking about converting family businesses into homes for, I suppose, foreigners. So the solution requires serious measures. And the first thing is to limit and to put it in, not all these other old business that they've been concentrating on with abortions and all the rest of it. Concentrate on the livelihood of people in the country and develop a food trade that's second to none. The neglect that they have inflicted on that sector with their support of monopoly situations and councillors elected by the people given permission for them to build their monstrosities everywhere and destroy towns and villages.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.